Hello and welcome to Primetime Pastimes Educating Lauren. I'm one of your hosts, Steve. Along with me, as always, is our other host, Gav. Say hello, Gav.
Too hot. Hello.
It is too hot. Also too hot to trot or whatever. Is the woman of the hour? It's Lauren. Say hello, Lauren.
I am just about here. As Gav said, it's very, very warm. I have no makeup on, or I can be dragged through a hedge backwards. But Steve insists we talk about King of the Ring. So
1993.
1993.
Get it over with. Let's all go.
Well, this is a vibe that I wasn't expecting. But anyway, a couple of things that I want to talk about. So the first thing is that yes, we are all very hot. We are all very sweaty. I'm a very, very big and beardy man. So if you see me glistening during this episode, just mind your business, I guess. And also a couple of things that I was paying attention to the last Primetime Pastimes Educating Lauren. I watched it back, listened to it back, and a couple of corrections I want to make, which really annoyed me. So first and foremost, I referred to Gory Guerrero as Mando Guerrero, his son, which infuriated me. And also, I referred to Kevin Sullivan as his on-screen brother, David Sullivan. And that might not seem like anything. That annoyed the hell out of me. And basically, as I've said on a couple of podcasts now, I had a horrible jaw infection and a migraine. And I feel very, very bad about that. But anyway, out with the old, in with the new. And of course, professional wrestling is the pastime that brings us all together. There's only one problem, that is that Lauren has only ever seen modern wrestling. So join us as we mine the golden era, be ruthless in our dissection, give gratitude to the attitude, and maybe uncover some hidden territory as we educate Lauren. Today's show, as we mentioned, is the very first pay-per-view, the very first expanded Big Four, really, of the pay-per-views. I'm, of course, talking about the first annual King of the Ring 1993. So before we do a deep dive into the show, Gav, do you remember it? What do you think of it at the time?
I thought I remembered it, and it wasn't the one I thought. But I do remember bits. I do remember a few bits. Yeah, I do remember. I remember the title match, both title matches actually, and I do remember Crush. So,
I've never seen a man get so excited when he realised that Crush was on this pay-per-view and I was finally going to see him.
Well, to be honest, and not skipping ahead too much, but I was really hoping that that this would spark something inside Gav as well, because I know he's talked about Crush quite a lot during this the 6 episodes that we've done of this so far, or 5 episodes. This is the 6th.
Yeah, actually was good.
Well, we'll pause that. We'll come back to that. So I'm curious, what did you think this was? Did you think this was 94?
For some stupid reason in my head, and it sounds stupid, I had the Austin 316 moment.
That was 3 years
later. Well, 3. That's not so bad, I suppose.
It's not too bad.
No, but for some reason, I just had that in my head. And I thought, I watched it and I was like, I have seen it. But
no, at this time, Steve Austin at this time is... I think the Dangerous Alliance has just finished in WWE, in WCW. Dave Sullivan and Thingy Sullivan again. So he's on the other channel at this point. So, Lauren, do you know anything about this show?
Nope.
Okay. I've never.
Nobody expects you to have known anything, Lauren.
What?
Nobody expects you to have known anything about it. Don't worry, I'm not disappointed.
No, I've barely heard of King of the Ring. It's something. The only thing that I think of when I think King of the Ring is Booker T. Because I think, if I'm right, that becomes quite a big thing in a few years. Just Booker wins King of the Ring and it's a whole thing. So that's mostly my knowledge of King of the Ring. And when I used to play the stupid card game on my phone, King of the Ring was a big thing in that. But yeah, I've never really seen any of it, know much about it, or what.
That is absolutely fine. So, just to give you a bit of a lay of the land, this was the first pay-per-view King of the Ring. However, we had other King of the Ring. In fact, one of my facts, which I'll get into right now, was Bret Hart is the actual only two-time winner of the King of the Ring. He actually won it in 1991 as well. So prior to this show in 1993, King of the Ring was pretty much an exclusive house show tournament. WWF made all the money on house shows, so you'd have some of the bigger stars there. That's where you see people like Don Morocco, I think, was the first person to win it. Macho Man Randy Savage was the first person to win it, although that isn't when he became the Macho King. That's when he sort of won the title from Hacksaw Jim Duggan, because it's a bit of a weird flippy floppy thing, this. Sometimes it's a big deal, this tournament. Sometimes they treat it like a championship. Sometimes they don't. It's a bit of a weird thing that they couldn't ever really get on top of. So the second fact was just that it was massively inconsistent, and it went away for a while, come back for a while. Yeah. Fourth fact, the coronation crown at the end of the show was actually Jerry the King Lawler's from back in Memphis that he loaned to the WWF, and he actually stood on it at the end, and it was irreparable damage. So that's something interesting. The evil cameraman in the World Wrestling Federation Championship match in the awful wig and really, really weird Dumbledore style grey beard was actually Harvey Wimpleman, who we talked about a couple of episodes ago. Lovely human being, but stuck out like a sore thumb. So before we go into the actual show itself, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. Bret and Hogan, why we didn't get Bret Hart versus Hulk Hogan. We'll come back to that in a moment. And of course, it's 1993, so we're right in the middle of the steroid scandal, which we've talked about a few times now. Gav, do you know roughly in the timeline whereabouts we are at this point? What's escalated, what hasn't?
No,
that's fine. So at this point, Vince McMahon has been indicted, so he will appear in court over illegally supplying steroids and promoting growth hormone within the business. Because of this, he's made a couple of changes to the WWF. The first change is that Linda McMahon is now the CEO. So he's put her into that position. By all accounts, very much a sort of figurehead person, even though she always did a lot of work behind the scenes. Very much a figurehead while he continued to do everything that he used to, but to try and shift some of the concern away from the business because he knew he'd be going to court. Yeah, Linda McMahon is currently the CEO. Has anyone heard of Jerry Jarrett?
Yes.
Do you know who Jerry Jarrett is?
It is Jeff Jarrett's dad.
Do you know why he's a famous person?
Because he owned AWA Wrestling. He owned one of them.
Very close. It was CWA,
right.
Which was what we all refer to as Memphis. So the company that he's got right now is, I forget the bloody acronym for it now, WCWA or whatever it's called. It was a combination of both Memphis and WCCW, which is the Von Erichs territory. He owns both of those now, and the USWA, that's it, sorry. And they were they being the WWF, were using that territory as a sort of developmental territory. So they've got that relationship. What Vince McMahon does is he brings Jerry Jarrett up to be a member of the creative team, to be an executive in the World Wrestling Federation, because he's scared that his mind's going to be taken away from everything. He's going to be focused on this massive scandal and this court case. So Jerry Jarrett is now in a prominent position alongside Bruce Pritchard as the sort of joint leaders of the WWF at this point, whenever Vince McMahon is off doing something else on that space. But another couple of things happened with this. It made a working relationship between WWF and this company as well. And also we saw some of the stars of this company come over. I say stars, some of the historic stars of this company come over, and some of the WWF people appear on USWA shows. So there was a dark match on the show, which was Owen Hart versus Papa Shango for the USWA World Championship, and that was a dark match. Can't see it anywhere. Very, very difficult to find. But obviously, a big person in that company and all for all the years in Memphis was Jerry the King Lawler. So that's why we get Jerry the King Lawler in the WWF at this point in time. A few months prior to this, it was a case where everyone hated both Jerry Jarrett and Jerry Lawler because of the way they'd run many of the people's careers into the ground at that point. And there was, have you heard about them all shitting in Jerry Lawler's crown?
Yes.
That this happened around, so this happened around this time from the Royal Rumble onwards, and there had to be an internal memo sent out saying, hey guys, it's all gone on too much, stop shitting in Jerry Lawler's crown.
We'll just give it to someone to win.
Wrestling. And another little fun fact before I move on from that, the evil Vince McMahon character actually started in Memphis in 1993. It didn't. The first time we'd seen that character was as a direct result of this pay-per-view event. So quite historic in that sense that he would later be the evil chairman Vince McMahon. But in the Memphis at this time, he was like an invading promoter, and Jerry Lawler was the good guy. So there you go. So that's that. Hulk Hogan versus Bret Hart. What do you know about this story, Gav?
As far as I can recall, Hogan was being Hogan, wouldn't have Bret go over him because he's a dick. He wouldn't allow another babyface to basically go over him. So they had to change it.
I mean, that is essentially it. Lauren, have you heard anything about this whole saga? No. So we're not going to talk about WrestleMania 9 too much because we'll probably cover that at some point. But let's just say that Hulk Hogan stole the spotlight in WrestleMania 9. There was an impromptu match between Hulk Hogan and Yokozuna, which Hulk Hogan won in something like 30 seconds. He walks out of WrestleMania 9 as the world champion, which nobody expected. And on the way out, he said to Bret the Hitman Hart, "Don't worry, brother, I'll make it up to you." And the intention was, as far as Bret Hart was concerned, that they were working towards a big feud at SummerSlam for the WWF Championship, Hogan versus Bret Hart. So in the meantime, Hulk Hogan goes away and films the pilot episodes for Thunder in Paradise. He goes and he thinks this is going to be his big break in Hollywood. But then he hears about this indictment, and the steroid scandal is still ramping up, something he very much wanted to distance himself away from since WrestleMania 8, and he decides that he isn't going to renew his contract. He is going to leave shortly after King of the Ring. He says he does not want to drop the belt to Bret the Hitman Hart. Bret Hart finds out not too long before this pay-per-view that Yokozuna is winning the title back, and Bret Hart is going to have a feud with Jerry Lawler instead at SummerSlam time because Hulk Hogan allegedly doesn't think Bret Hart is on the same level. So just before this whole pay-per-view started off, basically we have Bret the Hitman Hart. You know how I love the whiteboard? Bret the Hitman Hart loves a blackboard. So he's an illustrator as well. So he drew a picture of Brutus the Barber Beefcake's face with all the screws coming out of it, kissing Hulk Hogan's ass and saying something along the lines of "talk about a screw job," which is certainly something. Also, just one final thing on this. Hulk Hogan hadn't been around for well over a month or 2 months at this point. He had been to New Japan Pro Wrestling, where he fought the Great Muta. A lot of the internet things where you say, "Oh, Hulk Hogan really could wrestle," a lot of those memes and a lot of those videos are based on this time in Japan, where Hulk Hogan would fight Muta, would fight other people as well. And there was a a moment where he had an interview and said, referred to the WWF Championship as just a toy and a stepping stone. And the only thing that mattered to him was the IWGP Championship, which was quite controversial when people realized that a few years ago. But really, that's part of the course when you don't think people are going to actually ever see those pre-recorded messages. It's just, it's wrestling, isn't it? So yes, that has pretty much caught us up on everything. Let's start at the actual show. So apologies for talking on.
We did the Kid and Razor Ramon first.
We can do that. Yeah, we can talk about that now. I had planned on talking about it a bit later, but yeah, let's talk about it now. So I asked you to watch the 1, 2, 3 Kid versus Razor Ramon as a little bit.
Well, was it Lightning Kid at the point?
Yeah. So at this point,
kid,
he was actually just going. He was actually just going as the Kid.
Yeah.
The L stood
massively. So
go on, Gav. Tell us about it.
Obviously, we didn't know that they were friends in any respect till later on with all this business.
Mm-hmm.
But
what's that business for anyone that's just listening?
The click.
What do you do with it? Yeah.
The little click symbol.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it became a thing in wrestling where there was a group of guys that trained together, lived together, and they went into business for themselves together. So they all got over, they all became main eventers in their own way. And obviously Sean Waltman was one of them, was a newbie, and Ramon was a good friend and thought, this would be good to get you in. You can pin me in like a 2-minute match, and then you're done, you're in, you're over. So that's what they did.
And it's worth noticing that they'd set this up by Waltman portraying different wrestlers with the end word the Kid. So he was Cannonball Kid, he was L Kid, he was the Lightning Kid, he was all sorts of different kids, and then by the end he was known as being sort of an enhancement person. Out of nowhere, scored a quick victory over Razor Ramon. So why did I think that was relevant on this show? Mainly because of the crowd chants of 1, 2, 3 that go on throughout the Razor Ramon match.
But it was also a very good match for a 2-minute match, and you see it so many times redone.
Yep.
So many times done by other promotions and stuff, because it works.
It does. I think so. What do you think, Lauren?
I thought my very first impression was that the ring looked really tiny. I don't know whether it's the same ring that WWE were using at the time, but it looked minuscule. I really enjoyed this match. It was a lot more of the style that you see now. There was a lot more sort of what you would call proper wrestling, not just like rest hold after rest hold and forearm. And there was a lot more sort of tech wrestling and stuff in there.
Are we talking of Bret Hart and Razor at the moment, or are we still on Lightning Kid and Razor?
Lightning Kid and Razor.
Okay, cool. Okay, good. Just making sure.
It just seemed, I don't know, my note was clean, proper wrestling. I wrote down because I enjoyed it and I really liked the finish. Whatever the weird little move he did to end up in the pinning position just looked really smooth and really slick. And considering what I've heard about Waltman, of like that he was always sort of the entertainment rather than the wrestler, I didn't see that side in this match. I actually enjoyed this match.
The term X-Pac heat?
No.
Okay. So this is something that came around towards the end of the Attitude Era, into the to the Ruthless Aggression era, where everyone loved Sean Waltman at first. For some reason, a side of the audience started to really hate him towards the end of the Attitude Era. And for me, I don't understand why. So I'm not even going to try and justify why. But there was something that everyone started coining online, the term X-Pac heat, which meant go away heat, which meant we're not booing you because you're a good bad guy. We're booing you because we hate you. And it's one of those little, it's like the he's the Jannetty of the team. It's one of these things that I've never really sort of understood why people sort of feel that way, because I think X-Pac's great. I really, really do.
Nothing ever came out. There was nothing ever released if he's done anything wrong, or
other than shitting in various people's things.
Well, there was a few guys that used to do that kind of shit. So
yeah, but him more than anyone. Weirdly, it wasn't him at this time. It was Mr. Fuji, and apparently Undertaker had a go as well. Yeah. But yeah, he was always doing gross things, and yeah. But no, I'm a big Sean Waltman fan. Thought this was excellent, and it was the way to eventually get sympathy for Razor Ramon, who would eventually turn face in a couple of weeks. So, yeah.
As we were loading it, because obviously we watched The King of the Ring on Netflix because it's all on there now. But obviously we had to find that on YouTube, and
did I not send you a link?
You did, but obviously me and Gav have had new phones recently, so my YouTube wasn't linked up to the TV, and it was a whole thing. And then when it finally loaded, and I saw the video was like 2 minutes 40, I was like, "Why are you having me do all this and fucking load this up for a 2 minute rant?" And then I still didn't get it when I watched the match. I was just like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "It was good, but what was the point in this?" And then obviously later on, when we got to the point in King of the Ring, I was like, okay, I'll let him off. Like, I get it now.
I'm not saying I have a good plan, but I do have a plan. I'm doing everything for a reason. So
my favourite Waltman story was the box art for his Hasbro figure, and they shaved his eyebrows off. And
explain this to Lauren in more detail and to the listeners in more detail.
They did a Hasbro figure for most of the superstars, but when it came to Sean Waltman, the day before, I can't remember who it was, but he's had his eyebrows. Perfect. Right, he'd shaved his eyebrows off as a prank.
Yeah,
and the photo shoot for the box art was the next day, and they just did it and left the eyebrows shaved off. So it's just the weirdest box art you'll ever see.
Yeah, and I'm gutted I never owned that because I was out of action figures by this point. But that is the last line of Hasbro figures that they ever made, and I did not have any of the line. They had him, they had Adam Bomb, Smoking Guns, and Yokozuna.
I had Adam Bomb because he was one of my favourites. I remember having Adam Bomb.
I was just out of it at this point, and I really regret it because that story is fantastic. Anyway, enough of this. Let's talk about the start of the show then. First of all, the show start and the show graphics. What do you think, Lauren?
I actually quite liked these. I like the way they broke the brackets down. It's something I think more companies need to do when they're doing tournaments is actually have visual graphics, like easy accessible. It felt very 90s game show. Like, I could definitely see we shifted into the 90s with this one. But yeah, it felt like it was Generation Game or something. Do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah, no. I think it was good. I like it. I like it a lot.
And a very aggressive Vince. It's the king of the ring.
You know what always gets me about this show, though? I think, other than the original WrestleMania song, I think the King of the Ring music is just brilliant. And it's instantly recognizable to me and memorable to me. It's the...
Yeah.
Love it. So the whole vibe made me very, very, very happy. So just in regards to this as well, do you know where this show was held?
No.
Do you know why you probably don't know where this show was held? Because they almost never talked about it. That they said, we're here in the heartland of America, Dayton, Ohio. But they constantly were talking about the heartland of America. And that was a phrase that kept going and going and going throughout the thing. You never heard, well, we're here in Dayton. There was none of that. And the reason for that is that because ticket sales had suffered so much, the average ticket price on that show was $11. Tickets had gone down so much, and it was still less than 7,000 people in the audience. I did a show this weekend, which was 1,500 people, which is comparable to the 7,000 they did. It's mind-boggling to me that business was so low at this point in time. But they didn't want to admit they were in Dayton, Ohio, because in wrestling that is seen as a very, very B town, a lower town that people would do. We've
Right.
talked about Chicago and how Chicago was on one of the big towns that they did. Dayton, Ohio, very much a B town. So they were a little bit embarrassed. And that's why instead of saying, we're in a pretty small arena, they would say, we're in the heartland of America, going back to our roots, lads. Isn't it great? Let's take down Yokozuna together. All that jazz. So yeah, that's it. What do you think about the commentary, Lauren?
I've got comments about commentary most of the way through my notes tonight, actually. But from the first match, my note was just that Jim Ross on commentary feels right. Like, okay. I think because it's something that I'm still, and I've heard, and I'm used to. It's like hearing him back then. It just feels natural, and it's almost like my voice. I tune into his voice.
It's like David Attenborough when the wildlife program was on. If it's his voice, it's right.
But I think it's personally, I don't know whether it's just me picking up on it or not, but I felt like it was an easier show to watch because there was a decent play-by-play commentator. Like Jim Ross was talking you through everything that went on, and that went on through the whole. And that's obviously, it's rather than just flipping Monsoon and whoever just being back and forth, bitching at each other and making comments, actually having a solid play-by-play, talking you through the in-ring action as well as the comments from Randy and whoever else.
Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Yeah.
Bobby the Brain Heenan.
With his little drawing board.
Yeah,
I just think comms was a lot more fluid and conducive to a good show.
This is going to blow your mind. They could barely hear each other.
Right.
There was a tech issue where they could barely hear each other throughout the show, which is why at times the three of them do feel like they're slightly disconnected and they're just saying things rather than interacting with each other. So that back and forth, you're right, it wasn't there to the same degree we've seen other shows. Part of that is because Jim Ross is a very good play-by-play person. I don't think Bobby the Brain Heenan appreciated him. There's a few comments along the lines of, well, you should, why do you know anyone that didn't go to school and things like that?
But, he actually turned around at one point and calls him Gorilla. Calls him Monsoon.
Yeah, he does. He calls him Monsoon. You're not Monsoon. You look like him, though. Yeah. But yeah, Bobby's used to sort of that back and forth with people. And I think this is one of the weaker Bobby Heenan commentaries. He's trying, and he's just not getting anything from Jim Ross on this. Jim Ross had a similar issue with other people in the commentary desks at WCW. But yeah, it was a very, very disjointed commentary, and Vince McMahon wasn't happy with him, and he would be released from the company very shortly after this. And he would come back. But this is really the second big pay-per-view for Jim Ross. And we're calling him Jim Ross. We're not calling him good old JR because that whole persona has not happened yet. They try that, and as soon as he puts that cowboy hat on, he's beloved. But at this point, no, he wasn't what they were looking for. So there you go. I would say that obviously Bobby the Brain Heenan didn't seem to be particularly enamored with Jim Ross in this. Jim Ross actually thinks very, very high of Bobby the Brain Heenan, and he once referred to him as the best overall all-round performer that the WWF has ever had. Commentary, manager, and even as a wrestler, because he was a great wrestler too. So there you go. Bret Hart versus Razor Ramon. So Gav, what's your thoughts on this?
I just don't like Bret Hart.
This is the wrong pay-per-view for you then, sir.
I struggle with him so much.
Wow.
He just doesn't have anything for me. There's no character. There's no promoing. When he gets in the ring, it's I'll grab your arm for an hour and I'll twist it about. Oh, in fact, actually, I'll do a sharpshooter. But I've been on your arm for an hour. I'll just do a sharpshooter.
You say the sharpshooter. Did you see the sharpshooter on this show?
I think he did try to do it.
He tried to do it. Didn't do it though. Nope.
No.
But so, do you remember we talked about Patterson, who put all these matches together usually?
Yeah.
He gave the idea of this show, to make it up to Bret Hart, they were going to give him a prestigious sort of title, but not like a title he'd defend, but like you give him something to put him on a similar level to Hulk Hogan by making him King of the Ring, because they really still hadn't decided at this point who was going to take over from Hulk Hogan when he ultimately left. I think they were hoping he would just stick around, him being Hulk Hogan, but he was one of 5 people that they were looking at to sort of fill that void. It was him, it was Tito Santana, it was Ted DiBiase, it was Crush, somebody else as well. No, Luger wasn't. Luger wasn't a factor at this point.
Right.
Luger became a factor, but yeah,
Lex Express.
Well, we'll get to that at some point. But yeah, they were sort of just, is he the guy? Is he not the guy? Bret Hart had been the champion very, very briefly, but they weren't satisfied. And by the end of the show, Bret Hart has convinced himself that he's the best of all time, and really it propels his career, that self-confidence, because I don't think the confidence was there at this point. It certainly is by the end of the show.
Not. But I thought Ramon was way more captivating than Bret Hart in this match.
Well, going back to what I was just saying about how he was told to take on this sort of task, he was told by Pat Patterson to not use the sharpshooter, to win the match, to win each of the 3 matches in a different way, to tell a story throughout the show, and the story of being number one, he hurts his hand, he hurts his fingers, he breaks his fingers in this first match. Yeah. So that means if you've got no fingers, you can't put a sharpshooter on. Later on, he hurts his knee. So by the end, you're thinking, "Oh God, this guy can't do anything," and it's told a story throughout of him just managing to overcome the odds. And by the end, I do think that he becomes the no pun intended here, or no sort of reference to The Rock here, but he does become the people's champion by the end of the show, and he really is solidified as the top guy. I love Bret Hart. What do you think, Lauren?
I am slightly more on Gav's wavelength of Bret Hart. I mean, I have said it before that when I've seen the new Hart Foundation and stuff, I was more of a fan of Owen. I enjoyed the match. I know I've made some comments on previous episodes of matches felt like the wrong thing for the opener, whereas this felt right. It started very, very slow, very, very steady, very methodical, and built very slowly. So it kind of allows the fans to tune in. They've got to pay attention to what's going on because it's Bret doing submissions and stuff like that. So you're forcing the fans to actually pay attention rather than just being a spot and the fans can go, "Oh, cool!" Oh, and then back to whatever they were doing. You know what I mean? It felt like it was very, very well paced. Bret doesn't seem to do a right lot. It's, as I said, it's very methodical, and you do get the sort of story he's focusing on the arm, which to start with I was a bit like, I don't get, because his finish is a sharpshooter, but it makes sense if obviously he's been told not to do it.
He'd often do this. He's the excellence of execution, and he got that name before he even started using the sharpshooter, where he would work a body part, much like the Brainbusters, Arn and Tully. He would often work a body part and then switch it up. Not unlike Zack Sabre Jr. now. If he'd work a body part for a certain period of time, then he'd switch it and move on to the next one. Yeah. Try and work everything. But yeah,
again, no shade to Zack. I love Zack Sabre Jr. Like, he's insanely talented, and you can see Bret. He's a very talented technical wrestler. You can see that he has grown up in this business because his intellect for wrestling is second to none. I don't find him entertaining to watch.
It's a shame.
I appreciate the art, but I have to be in the mood to sort of. It's very similar to, like, say, people now, Zack Sabre Jr., Chris Ridgway, people like that. Insanely talented, and if I'm really in a mood to watch a technical match, I will sit there transfixed because they literally just tie each other up like pretzels, and it's stupid the stuff that they do. But as a general fan going to a wrestling show, I do not enjoy that style of wrestling. So that's where Brett sort of falls down for me, because there is no character with the promos and stuff like that. And yeah, he's not my bag. I did really like the ref in this, though.
Yeah, Mike Chioda. Yeah, I mentioned the ref. He was great in this.
I didn't realise it was Chioda, but yeah, he was brilliant. All the times he was telling Razor off, he was so demonstrative with explaining why. Like when Razor had his foot on his throat, you could see Chioda was like, he was demonstrating, like stamping in the air, being like, "No, you can't do this."
One of the absolute goats.
They got the really, really close to fall, and he literally jumped off and was like, "Two!"
in his face, like two.
Yeah,
two.
Really, really good. Which made the finish for me,
I get that.
Because it had been built so well by everybody in the match. I'm not saying it was just Kyoto, but like that near fall was like so.
It's insane.
It was such a nothing finish.
So let's talk about the near fall. So the near fall with a small package. Can you describe what the finish was?
He fell on him.
Yeah, it was like, so the near fall was a reversal of a small package, wasn't it?
Yes.
So obviously, for people who don't know what small package is, obviously the one wrestler is basically bundled up into a ball with their shoulders on the floor. And
we've seen small packages before. I think people should probably know a small package, but what they might not know is the side suplex that he does off the top rope, him being Razor Ramon, and as he lifts Bret Hart up, Bret Hart rolls into him and turns it into a splash essentially, and that is the finish for this.
Yeah, it just looked like the pair of them fell.
It's a shame because we had small package finishes for other matches on this show, but I agree with you, especially with the way Mike Chioda, the way he did a very, very close near fall on that. The entire audience was like, "Oh," and then no pun intended, because they do literally fall flat, but the end did fall a little bit flat. I think if we hadn't have had that near fall, you'd have been fine with it.
Probably, yeah. Well, I think because the match had built so slowly and so sort of steadily up to this pinnacle of, like I say, I thought we were getting a fish out of water spot because the reversal, he sort of flicked it back. I was expecting to have a bit of back and forth with the pair of them pinning each other's shoulders. And then when Chioda jumped up as just like a 2, I was like, what? Like, because obviously fish out of water spots, it tends to be a 1 count to one person, 1 count to another person, 1 count. So when he got to 2, it was like, oh no, he's got him, this is it. And then next minute Chioda's up, and it's like, no. So yeah, it was just built to such a high level, especially someone not knowing the finishing moves of both the people. It literally just looked like Razor had gone to do something, it had gone wrong, and Brett had just gone, fuck it, the only way I can cover this is just to lie on you and pin you. And it looks like it was just a fuck up, basically.
No, I mean, I don't think it does. I do think it looks like Brett capitalized, but by the same respect, my gut instinct is I don't think anyone would have half the problem with this finish if they didn't have such an excellent near fall beforehand.
Probably, yeah. Agreed.
So obviously we've had that match. Bret Hart goes through. I would just add that everyone sort of played the hits on here, but it was one of the slower matches of the card. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was fine. I thought it was better than fine. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good first match. I know I was going to come in slightly less than that, and Lawrence somewhere in the middle. So let's move on to.
I thought it was a good first match.
Yeah, it's a good opener.
Not my type of match to sit and enjoy.
But I enjoyed it because at least one of the wrestlers was one of my favourites. So it's one of them. It's easy for me to enjoy when Razor's in the ring.
Yeah.
So
before you move on to the next match, I don't know if you're going to mention all the video packages in between.
I am.
But what was that Bigfoot-looking dude?
I did tell you it was Gonzalez.
Yeah, Giant Gonzalez. Yeah.
So, said the worst ever in wrestling.
We will talk all about that man and his weird suit. If we ever do WrestleMania 9, which I'm sure we will, because Neil the Real Deal wants to do it. Yeah, we'll talk about him another time. But he is one of the guys under the managerial services of Harvey Whippleman, as is Mr. Hughes. So yeah, it was an angle where they put the Undertaker out, and yeah, that was sort of it. They stole his urn, didn't earn that one. So this is something a lot of wrestlers did, where they'd steal the Undertaker's urn. Karma was the best one, the Godfather, where he actually melted it down and made it into a chain. But yeah, people did this a few times, and this is probably one of the worst versions of it. Undertaker says that his feud with Giant Gonzalez was one of the worst, if not the worst, he's ever had.
You heard him about teaching him how to hit him on the back, but not on the back of the head.
I did, and I don't want to go on to it too much because he's not in the show. But let's move on. The only thing I would like to say about this video clip is you can hear Jerry Lawler on the commentary with Vince McMahon and Matchman Randy Savage. So again, this is even more credibility to the fact that they didn't like Jim Ross, because on one of the major shows he wasn't on that. So yeah. We've got Mr. Perfect versus Mr. Hughes, both called Curtis, which is a fun fact.
I forgot about Mr. Hughes.
There's a good reason why. So, what do you reckon, Gav?
Heard of Mr. Hughes.
Hmm?
Well, first of all, Lauren says she's never heard about Mr. Hughes. So, Gav, why don't you fill her in?
I just remember he was an American footballer who they got in because he was a unit. And it looks like they literally trained him to take a bump, and maybe do a move or two, and that's about it.
I think he'd been wrestling about 5 years at this point, because he was the big cat. He was the big cat Curtis Hughes around 88-ish, 89-ish. In I want to say AWA, but he was on the fringes. But yeah, that was an awful gimmick. If you want to Google the big cat. Curtis Hughes, what an awful gimmick that was. He had like a sequin poncho coming down to the ring. Visually, I thought Curtis Hughes did look good. Sunglasses that he kept on the whole time. I thought you'd like it, Lauren, because he's a bit like the Big Boss Man.
I was like I say, I've never heard of him. Did not expect him to move like that.
What?
Like, he was agile. Like, he could shift himself across the ring, and like when he came off
one would say like a big cat.
When he came off the ropes, there was actually some sort of like I don't want to say agility again, but that basically was it. He could move and control his weight. It wasn't lumbering.
You're definitely an athlete.
It was more impressive in them shoes. They were awful shoes.
When they said he was a linebacker, it made a lot more sense because obviously he's used to shifting that weight. The start of the match when Mr. Perfect threw his towel and it landed perfectly on Mr. Hughes' shoulder, that popped me so much.
I love it all the time.
He does.
Yeah, wrestling in sunglasses, what the fuck? Wrestling in formal wear, like the proper pants and the shirt. That's impressive in itself, let alone when you're a chunky boy.
It is.
And yeah, I didn't think we got a lot from Mr. Hughes, like offense-wise, but what he did, Mr. Perfect sold him really, really well.
I was going to ask you about Mr. Perfect selling, because the last time you saw Mr. Perfect, you hated him selling so much. What do you think this time?
he was a lot better. He seemed a lot more. The selling was appropriate for what had just happened. Whether it just looked better because he'd just been hit by a monster, so he should have been more hurt, I don't know. And I can't remember what the end of the match was, what the finish of the match was, but I clearly liked it because I've written a note that it was a good ending.
Basically,
disqualification, wasn't it?
It was. What happened? Do you remember?
I think he came in. Someone else came in, didn't they?
So what had happened was Harvey Whippleman did a bit of a distraction, got frustrated, passed the urn to Mr. Hughes, and then he just turns around and nails him straight in the head with it. Yeah. So Mr. Hughes is still undefeated, protects him a little bit, and not a terribly long match for Mr. Perfect. Most people think this is the worst match on the card. I think this was fine for what it was.
I definitely wouldn't have said this was the worst match.
No, it's not the worst.
There were matches later on that I really, really struggled through.
Yeah. No, I thought this was absolutely fine, and I'm glad that you
had some serious lifts on them boots.
Serious lifts.
Yeah.
What do you think about the picture-in-picture bit with Bret Hart talking about who he'd rather face?
You just shouldn't talk.
Yeah, just stop giving Bret Hart the microphone. But also, why are we doing interviews midway through a match? Like, the crowd aren't seeing that. We're not able to watch the wrestling because you put a shit promo in it.
You'd hate it. When we talked about Uncensored 96 with the picture-in-picture for the various backstage bits during the Chicago Street Fight, I thought you're not going to like the picture-in-picture for the King of the Ring either. All right, cool. Let's move on. Yokozuna interview, very, very short. Mr. Fuji trying to talk, but thought struggling a little bit. What do you think of the overall sort of presentation of Mr. Fuji and Yokozuna?
You can tell that he's got a personality.
Who's he?
Yokozuna. You can tell he's got something bubbling away. He never ever gets a chance to use it. Ever.
No, he almost never said anything until like 95-ish when he was tagging.
There was a problem. His face wanting to do something.
Yeah, you can. For all accounts, he could talk. But they were even though they were referring to him as coming from the Polynesian island, they were very much intimating that he was from Japan, even though it's clearly the most Samoan man you've ever seen in your entire life. And I've seen several. What do you reckon, Lauren? Did you like the presentation of Yokozuna and Fuji?
Yeah. So everyone that has watched any previous episodes of this will know my hatred of shouty promos. So this was quite nice, a lot more nuanced stuff, stupid little, like, not quite cackles, but like menacing laughs, and just, I quite liked the way Mr. Fuji talked, and it would just like sort of confirm it with Yokozuna, and
the big guy in the back giving a nod.
Yeah, I definitely preferred this to most of the promos we have seen in previous Educating Lauren episodes.
Apart from Jake.
I sort of agree. He got a lot, him being Mr. Fuji, got a lot of shit for not being particularly good as a promo. But Mr. Fuji's strengths were always at ringside, I think, and he always made it about the actual wrestlers themselves. And he was quite a good comedy skit when he's not shitting in people's crowns. But they weren't happy with Mr. Fuji on his own. So shortly after this, we talked about the relationship with the USWA. Shortly after this, they began a relationship with Smoky Mountain Wrestling. They brought over James E. Cornette to be the voice of the managerial team. And I think the presentation of Yokozuna when James E. Cornette and Fuji were both there absolutely lifted everything. I thought that was great. Anyway, let's talk about match 3, which is Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus Bam Bam Bigelow. My joint favorite best big man of all time, along with Vader, is Bam Bam Bigelow. This is the first time you've seen Bam Bam Bigelow, I believe. Lauren, what do you think?
Um, my my initial comment that I've written down is he's got more hair on his neck than his head.
Yeah, that high definition will kill you because I did not notice that when I was a young'un.
He was a very hairy man,
He
other than
was,
his head.
other than his head. Yeah.
But no, I honestly I don't know why, but I didn't have high expectations for Van Man Bigelow. He's not someone. He's not someone I've ever heard much about. It's a name that I've always known, but
Hmm.
not. He's not someone that sort of seems to get talked about a lot. So I wasn't expecting a lot, knowing he was a big dude and the stereotypes that come with that.
Hmm.
But I was impressed. My main thing with this match is I just don't understand Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I still don't get it. Like,
He's
I
a very
don't
complex
understand
character.
why. Like, I was
Don't you?
first made aware of Hacksaw Jim Duggan
Yeah,
years and years ago when Progress were advertising
the mystery
unboxing.
partner.
No, it was unboxing, which is like a whole mystery show.
Okay, yeah.
And there was a whole thing about it being Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and that
Hmm.
lasted for years. And I was always like, why has everyone got a 2x4 and keeps making these stupid noises? I don't understand
Okay.
why people, because he didn't do, like, I didn't see anything from him that would make me warm to him and be like, ah, this guy's cool or this guy's funny.
So is it the two by
Baffled.
four specifically that you don't understand, or is it just it's just
All
nothing
of
about
it.
him that seems to?
I don't understand why I've heard so much about him.
Mhm.
I think the Progress joke is the fact that when you've got a pay per view and you struck for someone, it's always Hacksaw Jim Duggan. They just throw him in for years. It's just like, yeah, put Hacksaw in, it'll be fine.
He was
Okay, well, I
touring.
suppose
He was
that
touring
makes
for a
it
while.
more sense now.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just.
He just kept turning up. He didn't do any. He never really had like a run or an angle with anyone. He just used to turn up.
He had a major run in the
That
deep
was
south
early though, wasn't
sort
it?
of
Yeah,
area.
deep south, but not
Yeah,
WWE.
he very rarely lost matches. Because it's come up, I'll tell you about the 2x4 thing. There was I forget the name of him, but there was a wrestler back in the old school who went to a town who was being sort of like bombarded with real life villains, and he sort of took over as the town's protector, and he grabbed a 2x4, and that was his sort of weapon of choice. And he was very well known in the United States, and this wrestler had come along and he beat everyone up, and they made a film
That
about
the
it.
film Walking Tall was based
They
on.
made a
Yeah,
film about it called Walking Tall, but not the
yeah.
one you might be thinking about. The one
With
you
the
might be
Rock.
thinking
There was
about,
one before
yeah,
it, wasn't
The
there?
Rock. That is a remake.
Yes,
So
I
the
remember that.
original one, Hacksaw Jim Duggan said, "Well, I'll start doing that. I'll start bringing a 2x4 to ringside, and that's my gimmick." And he was a very rough and tough guy in the deep south. He was a bit more cartoony when he came to WWF, and he became like everything about him was basically the USA, which is why oftentimes you'd have the flag, you'd have the 2x4 at the same time. So he's like the ho and all that jazz. Yeah, exactly that, exactly that. But he was massively over in the South. Everyone loved Hacksaw Jim Duggan for a very long time. Again, steroid scandal. You might be wondering why is he wearing a singlet? Because he's lost a lot of body size because he's not on the sauce. He's not wearing a singlet when he goes to WCW because he's done this.
Yeah.
And he's back on the sauce. Yeah. So, what do you think of the actual match itself, Lauren? Other than sort of Bam Bam's physicality.
Honestly, I have no notes.
All right. There was a couple of good spots in this match. I really enjoyed. So Jim Duggan's finisher was like a 3-point stance that he'd go into a sort of tackle thing, and Bam Bam got out of the way and he missed, and Hacksaw went into a turnbuckle head first, and that led into him falling down and Bam Bam Bigelow doing the headbutt from the top. I thought it was a nice clean finish. Two old school wrestlers, but one with a sort of new school coat of paint. I thought it was good for what it was. Again, another short match. Hacksaw's always been fine to me.
But you can always see Bam Bam is like he's the precursor to the Agile Big Man. He's like the first one, really.
Yeah, probably. I mean, he was always agile, and many people said it was to his detriment because he wasn't often working like a big man. He probably works like a big man more in this show than he ever did before. He was very good in a tag team in All Japan Pro Wrestling with Vader. He was in WrestleMania 4 in another tournament, quite younger into his career. He's actually a WWF WrestleMania main eventer, but we'll get into that at some point. I've got nothing but love for Bam Bam. I thought it was great, but the one criticism that people did have of him was he was always too athletic and he didn't work like a big man enough. But yeah, I love his work.
My biggest criticism was that flying headbutt's just a shit finish. But that's probably when I look back and
for the day,
leg drops and shit as finish, I get it. But
for a guy that size to fly and
what was unseen. Unheard of. He was the Mason Rook / Will Cruz of his day.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really was. Another great story, which I must mention about Bam Bam Bigelow. Did you ever hear about the story about him legitimately saving people's lives?
I seem to remember something about this.
So what happened was burning building, and he literally runs through a wall. Literally ran through a wall to get these kids out of this burning building. And for a guy with fire tattooed onto his head, what sort of foresight is that? Can you imagine those kids' faces?
The fire's come alive to save us.
Yeah. It's like the Kool-Aid Man, but a lot more sinister.
I did notice the staples in the back of his head as well on this show.
Yeah, I don't know what that was for. Must have been injured. It's about injuries. I didn't say this earlier. Do you know Bret Hart had a match with Bob Backlund the night before, and he had a massive ankle injury, and he was in massive amounts of pain the entire show. So that's another reason why I think you've got to respect Bret Hart for this show, because he did fantastically well considering he was on a duff ankle. Anyway, anything else you want to talk about with this match?
Yeah.
Okay. Smoking Guns and the Steiners interview with the Terry Taylor, the former Red Rooster. Anything you want to say about the actual talky bits? Did you realise that was Billy Gunn, Lauren?
No, Gav had to point it out to me. I was too amazed at just how much flipping Bron looks like his dad and his uncle.
Yeah, it's just like mix them together.
You mix the two of them together and it's Bron. Like, his mum's genes are so fucking weak. Because that boy is Steiner through and through.
Oh, 100%. There's another one as well. I can't remember his name, but there's another Steiner coming up as well, and he's in the NFL at the moment, or he's going into that direction. But part of me thinks, can we not just have the Steiner cousins? I just want the Steiner cousins. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Lex Luger in his narcissist guise versus Tatanka. Before we talk about the match itself, do you recognise anything about the gear that Lex Luger was wearing, Lauren?
The silver gear.
The silver gear with the triangle shaped tassels at the front. That reminds you of anyone?
Sting.
Tony Wright.
I was going to say.
Oh.
Right?
Tony. This is where Tony Wright got his idea for his gear.
As soon as you said triangle tassels, then I'm like, howdy.
Yeah, Tony Wright. Yeah, apparently I was one of the only people that got that the first time he started wearing it because immediately looked at him and went, "Oh, Lex Luger." Yeah, that's right. Somebody got it. Yeah. So first of all, what do you think about the narcissist Lex Luger, Lauren? You've seen him in WCW. What do you think about this version?
Don't like it.
Don't like it? It's a
No.
shame.
I
Is it?
mean, doesn't help at the minute. We're watching Smallville, and so I've got Lex Luger and Lex Luthor are like mushing in my brain because my brain is not working very well.
And he looks like Mick Jagger as well. Put it on top.
Yeah, looks like Mick Jagger. Yeah, just not a fan at all of this. To be fair,
It's okay.
um,
What
not,
makes you say you're not a fan of it? Go on. Is it the wrestling? Is it the style of the wrestlers? Go on, explain.
bit of everything. So I'm not sure what difference that pad was supposed to make going over his elbow. It was the thinnest piece of flimsiest material ever.
Well, just pause a second. So, did you understand what they were trying to intimate during that show as to why he needed to wear the pad?
Well, he has a reconstructed elbow arm, hadn't he? So he had screws in his arm.
Forearm. So why is it on the elbow?
Well, yeah, I did also question that, and I thought that was just me being daft.
No, it's legit. It's annoyed me for years. It's Lex Luger just clearly didn't give a shit and just rolled it all the way up.
Yeah,
because it's not even a lot of padding on it because it's supposed to just go on the elbow on the forearm. That's why.
Yeah, but commentary also mentioned it was an elbow pad, even though they'd mentioned earlier on that it was his forearm that was full of screws.
Well, he goes up to the camera and goes,
"Yeah,
yeah."
I think they were just trying to cover for it.
But yeah, referee ringing the bell with a mirror in the middle of the ring. What the fuck?
Yeah, so all the credibility we gave Mike Chioda earlier, he's just shattered all the way, hasn't he? With that,
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
you can't fight with a mirror in the middle of the ring. Then we get into some wrestling potentially style questions that I just personal dislikes of mine. I hate it when people try to chop another wrestler over the top rope. It's unless you are, let's say, The Undertaker trying to chop X-Pac over the top rope. Like, unless there's a significant size difference and the person giving the chop is weighty and has a notoriety for having heavy chops, blah, blah. In general, you are not going to chop someone over a top rope believably.
I'm certainly not.
It's just not happening.
Yeah,
so I don't like that. That happened in this match. I think it was Luger on Tatanka. He had him in a wrist lock and twisted the wrist lock. And then twisted the wrist lock again. And then twisted the wrist lock again. And I'm like, you can't do that. The arm will only twist once. Like, if you genuinely had a tight wrist lock on, you can spin someone's arm and make them uncomfortable. You can't then do it again. So it was just little things just chipping away at the believability of this match.
I mean, it's really after the wrist lock, it's the hammer lock, and that's your lot.
Yeah, but there was literally 3 sort of spins of a wrist lock in a row.
Luger would do that quite a lot, and I'm surprised that Gav, who has said previously that he quite likes Lex Luger, has joined you on that little tirade.
It felt like a repeat of the Brett match.
Mm-hmm.
Same arm focus, same sort of. It just looked like it was. They didn't have a whiteboard.
It did have a blackboard, but it had Brutus Beefcake's face on it. That's the problem.
Yeah, but no, it just seemed repetitive. As I was watching it, I felt like I'd watched it before, and I had like earlier.
I agree with much of what you're saying here. I do think that it was so obvious it was going the 15 minutes. They'd set it up by saying both these men are undefeated, and they'd mentioned the 15-minute timeline. Go on.
So I have multiple other points on this, but my last point was a time limit match.
Yeah.
But there's no indication in the arena of what the time is, and commentary even mentioned saying, do they know that they only have like 3 minutes left or whatever it was when they mentioned it?
No, like,
no, I don't think they do. So I'm like, so the crowd don't know, the wrestlers don't know, yet it's a time limit match. And
I'm going to defend that a little bit, but go on.
That just feels like bad programming from WWE or whoever it was. Is it WWF at this point?
Yeah. It's not WWE until 2001.
So yeah, I'm not a fan of that, and I'm also, I think me and you have had this conversation before of if companies are going to use time limit matches, then it needs to be consistent. So if you're going to have, if like this, every match is a time limit match for the tournament. If you are going to have a time limit draw in that, every single match needs to have 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left, 2 minutes left, so that everybody is aware what's going on, and so that you don't choreograph it when you do it for the one match that is going to be a draw.
This was much of what I was going to say. So I was just going to say that, yes, the viewers at home, it was peppered in and peppered in and peppered in. We've only got X amount of minutes left. It's a 15-minute time limit. It's a 15-minute time limit. These two are both undefeated. So for anyone paying attention to wrestling, they know what's coming. But the stadium wouldn't have had that, like you say. So that was my defense, that the stadium wouldn't have had that. And the fact that it's not been explained in any of the other matches, you're right. Consistency is so important to me. So that was my point, that I defended it on the basis that we hadn't throughout the show said, right, we've got 10 minutes left, everybody, 10 minutes left. Yeah. Which they didn't do.
I just feel like if I was a fan in that audience, when it came to a time limit draw, I would have been like, eh? And then especially with the confusion that came after it.
What confusion?
So it was a time limit draw, which it was announced by
Fink.
His name's gone. What?
Howard Finkel.
Finkel, that's the one. So it was announced that it was a time limit draw, which meant both men were eliminated.
Well, initially, I think he said both men were, they said both men were eliminated, but there was a bit of confusion there. And then Lex Luger came on and said, come on, give us 5 more minutes. And he started getting a face pop. He started getting a good reaction from the crowd.
Yeah.
And then he hit him, which was, he felt like it went nowhere. There was a bit of confusion.
It was a whole sort of, there is no other word other than confusion, because it just was. And I feel like if I was in the arena at the time, it would have been even worse, because there was absolutely no prefacing that it was a time limit draw, other than the ring announcer at the start being like, it has a 15-minute time limit.
Which they do say at the beginning of every match, but that's the only time they say it.
The ring announcer mentioned it, and then it's completely irrelevant.
I've got one thing to say, though. If it was in Brit Rest, there'd have been some idiot in the crowd going, that was only 13 minutes and 4 seconds. I'm going to whinge about this for 4 hours online.
Well, this is precisely why when we do it over here, when the companies do it properly over here, we are very anal about that it is timed to the second. And if you are on a show with me and you have a time limit draw, I am very much like, well, no, it needs to be announced in the intro. It needs to be announced that when you're getting down to times. And yes, it's harder for the wrestlers and the referees and whatever, because you're literally, because a lot of the time when it comes down to this, they want it to be like it's just a time limit draw. So you're trying to work towards like a 2-second window of being in a pinning predicament with 2 seconds left. But it's a massively important thing for the companies that I've worked in anyway. The people who use it as a tool to finish matches are very sort of conscientious about it.
We need to get it spot on or as near as, damn it.
Yeah, because we do have
Wrestle Island are good at it.
Going, that was only 14 minutes and 57 seconds. So it's one of them. That's probably why I get such a bee in my bonnet about it, because it's one of those things.
Because I do agree with you. I 100% agree with you. And one of the caveats I was going to say was I forgive them on this match because they hadn't set it up throughout, and you've got to be consistent. But me personally, I would prefer them to always be consistent and always say, because if you're saying on every match, 5 minutes has elapsed, 10 minutes remaining, or whatever, then it doesn't just come out of nowhere.
That's my thing. I can allow it because they are being consistent, but to me, they're being incorrectly consistent. The consistency should be that it's announced for every single match. If you want to use it for one match as a tool, you have to sow those seeds through every single match. And that isn't a criticism on the wrestlers.
No, it isn't. Yeah, I want to make that very clear.
That's a criticism on WWF and the agents and the programming.
On the wrestlers, though, I would just say one thing I did think they did very, very well was, and this could be unintentional, but they looked very, very, very exhausted and tired. So it really sold the idea that they had just been through a war of attrition for 15 minutes, when in reality, it was only about a minute less than the Bret Hart Razor Ramon match at the beginning, where both of them looked quite fresh. But by the end of this match, both of them looked absolutely exhausted. And if that was intentional, well done, sirs, because you got me.
I feel like that was supposed to be part of the story that they told, because there was a good period towards the end of the match where Tatanka just didn't get up.
No.
Like, Lex was just laying in offense, but Tatanka was making zero effort to get up. Like, to the point it was frustrating me. Like, Lex was just going for falling elbow and frigging, which that move irritates me anyway, but again, it's one of those, of that time, I can sort of leave it there, but it's just, what are you doing, mate?
Fair.
My last note, other than the slightly racist commentary.
Well, a constant commentary that's racist. Yeah. Constantly. I don't even mention it now.
Comeback dance from Tatanka.
No, sorry, say that again. Firing up, yeah.
Really weird dance that the Tanker did when it during his comeback. It was he'd just been out and had been hit and was knackered, and then next minute he's suddenly stomping his feet and doing a little Irish jig.
Yeah, Gav said it right. It's the way he hulked up. It's a lot of wrestlers had versions of this. Like Ultimate Warrior would shake the ropes as he was being hit. This was Tatanka's version.
And then he'd point.
Yeah, this was Tatanka's version. So yeah, it's not unheard of.
To the whole while the straps are coming down, and I think there's slightly more blood. When we had, my God, why is my brain so bad with names today? Big Guns Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Big Guns Joe used to go for his protein shake, and he'd have a swig of his protein shake, and then next thing the straps would come down, and there was a reason for him hulking up. Session Moss does it. Session Moss goes for a swig of the beer, and then she suddenly got a new lease of life. I feel like I enjoy a Hulk up when there's a reason for it. Like, even if you've just been, even Hulks, if you've been punched in the face, it's almost like someone's knocked some sense into you, and you go, I'm going to get... Some of them just don't make sense.
And just likes to feel the rhythm.
Yeah. It's probably just the time, the eras of wrestling, and
probably
I'm not used to it. But yeah, that's just my thoughts.
At least he was an actual Native American, because some of them, like Wahoo McDaniels, weren't Native Americans. So at least he was a Native American doing it, whereas other people that had quote unquote Indian gimmicks at the time, half of them were Italians.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, Wahoo McDaniel was nowhere near Indian heritage. Yeah. Patterson was, and never not Pat Patterson. Sorry, God, but Gerald Briscoe was rather, which he almost never mentioned at the time. So there you go. One final thing I just want to talk about on this is I had a little note on the commentary. Randy Savage, one of the early points when he's peppering in just how much the time is important on these shows. He said something along the lines of, "There's never been a situation where time was so important so early in a competition." Gav will know this. Randy Savage won WrestleMania 4, which was a competition for the World Championship. So I don't know what that was about, but what a short memory he has.
I think someone else might have been in his ear feeding him some words to say. I don't know, maybe.
I don't know what you mean, pal. Are we done with this match?
Yeah, it's a really shit promo to go on to next.
Fantastic. I thought this interview was great. Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect. I have a feeling you're going to hate it.
No, so I really, really liked the way that Gene was just shit stirring.
I did too.
I thought it was really funny, but it was even funnier that he was so good and the replies from the both of them were so terrible.
Do you think that was intentional? Do you think Bret was intentionally being coy there? I didn't mean it like that. I do think that was
Bret
intentional.
Can't do a promo, but Mr. Perfect was taking the piss out of Bret and being just as shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I just really liked the contrast of Gene being so sort of like complete professional, but you could tell he was just like poke the bear, poke the bear, poke the bear, and he was enjoying it.
I loved it.
The unit he was as well, Mr. Perfect, compared to Bret.
I thought I meant Mean Gene then. Yeah, he wasn't a unit.
No,
he was built, Mr. Perfect. He just didn't look it because he was under the singlet.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this. I loved your dad didn't beat my dad, and I love the fact that Bret's music
than your dad.
Exactly. I love that Bret's music had started and Bret had started walking down the ring and Perfect's still there slagging him off, and I thought that's brilliant. That's really, really fun. I thought that was a really, really good interview, and I think that's something that people could do more of. What about the actual match itself, Lauren?
Bret technically good, but boring again to me. Perfect, very, very athletic. Nasty landing for Bret on that bottle, like the tub containing a bottle of water and stuff. That looked grim.
That's the second injury of the night, and perfectly timed for him. Apparently, that was a really well done spot.
Right. Then I have questions. So, commentary say Mr. Perfect stopped the count.
Yeah.
Did he stop the count because he touched the ropes?
He backed the referee away.
Right, okay, I didn't see that. All I saw was him touch the ropes. But then also, why, after that, when he went to get out of the ring, does the ref then suddenly go 1, 2, 3 at him, like really quickly counting? I was like, confused.
People are going to hate me for this. I don't think Earl Hebner is a particularly good referee.
Nope.
I think he does a lot of spots, and I know people. No, so let me rephrase that. I don't think he is at the elite level that everyone thinks he is. Obviously, he's a good referee. He wouldn't be in that position if he wasn't. I don't think he's at the elite level of some of the other referees at this time. Almost spilt my drink of water there. I think if you compare him to Mike Chioda is a much better referee. In my opinion. So, but again, what do I know? Well,
it also seems to be a really slow count on the rope choke.
I will give him some credit though. At the end, there was a small package. Did you notice at the end of the small package, the finish of the match, the shoulder wasn't down?
Yes. So I noted that it was just a really odd finish. Again, I don't know whether this is because Bret had been told to do all these different things and he just wasn't used to it or what.
Yeah, he was told to ignore the sharpshooter, so he put 3 very, very different matches on. Like, I like the finish, but the shoulder was down. But to the referee's credit, and again, if he hadn't have counted that shoulder down, he'd have ruined the match.
Yeah.
The referee. So I'm not saying he should. I'm not saying he shouldn't, but I am saying if he hadn't, we'd have ruined the match. So that's one thing. I think people are too harsh on referees that do this sometimes. What do you think about the suplex over the top rope? So the getting right. Well, it's an incredible move. The suplex each other and the momentum. I think it's Brett that suplexes Perfect on the outside, and then Perfect grabs him and they both fall over. Fantastic move.
Is that when Mr. Perfect hits his back on the apron?
Yes.
Yeah, I did see that. Again, that looks fucking grim for Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, but it's because they're such good worker. I don't know if you've noticed, I like this match a lot. In fact, I think this is one of my favourite matches of all time.
And I know good match.
I know you're not going to agree.
I like Perfect, so...
Yeah, I can't agree with you on that one. I apologise.
That's okay.
Brett's been in some amazing matches. I'm just not a fan of Brett. I'm not saying he can't wrestle, but I'm just not a fan. But people who he wrestled when they are his sort of best matches are people I usually really like. So I'll actually watch them and go, oh, I like this match. But not because of Brett.
We talked about the Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat match, quite similar in the sense that every single move in this looked like it was meant to win the match. There was no meandering. There was no.
It was a purposeful.
Everything.
The only one where I was a bit like telegraphed was where Mr. Perfect literally puts his hands on the mat and then pushes himself to do his balls on the ring post.
Yeah, so he gets whipped across the ring and then he pushes himself out of the ring into right. So the commentary covered from that as well.
Yeah,
so the commentary covered by saying, "Oh, his spatial awareness wasn't up." Yeah, so it was less about because I think they tried to do that move as if he'd been whipped completely out and the momentum had taken him. But the way the commentary covered for it was saying he's been whipped across and then he pushed himself out, but forgot where he was in the ring.
Missed. Yeah.
So I think they covered for it. Yeah. But again, I think that's
what you one. Do. You work together, don't you? So you cover
100%
what you can.
Yeah. I mean, one of the whole reasons for commentary is so. Spoiler alert for all of wrestling. One of the whole reasons for commentary is so you don't hear the wrestlers talking to each other on a televised show. It's as simple as that. That is the main reason for commentary. So you don't hear someone saying, take my arm, and you don't hear the ref saying 3 minutes left.
When people watch it live and they're right next to the ring, especially Brit Wrestling, when you literally can be one person away from the ring.
Yeah.
You hear it audibly.
Oh, I hope not. Hope you don't hear me.
No, but you can sometimes some of the wrestlers are not quiet. In the moment, they can be quite loud.
Right. We've got about 4 matches still to cover, and we've already been recording for an hour and a half. So, can we?
We absolutely are. We absolutely are. Don't worry. So I'm going to end that one now. But I think this is the best match on the card as far as I'm concerned, and I think this is the one that you should go and watch if you can. So Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Hart. One thing I would want to just say about this very, very quickly is Jimmy Hart says the words, he's got the red, white and blue running through his veins. He was born and raised in the US of A, which I thought was cool because he later takes those very words and makes it into the theme song that Hulk Hogan uses in WCW. So there you go. Yokozuna versus Hulk Hogan. What do you think, Gav?
Shit.
Yeah.
Just shit.
There's not a whole lot good to say about this. Lauren, anything to add?
Okay, so I have a lot of dislike and then one good thing. So I'm just going to run through it really, really quickly. Sure. Don't like Randy Savage on comms. His voice just irritates me, and when he's trying to talk all the way through commentary, it just winds me up. from this, I don't see Yokozuna wrestle particularly much. He just hits people, and meh. Really not a fan of this match. Hulk seems to be having some sort of epileptic fit, and then really energetically kicks out. Just again, my dislike of Hulk. Hate. I don't know what happened in the match for me to have written that, but clearly I really didn't like it.
Literally could have been anything. It wasn't a good match.
Yeah. Why
and you slimmed down for this match because he was fighting someone so big. Yeah, I'm sure he did.
Why
it's stupid sexy drugs, you know that.
Yep.
Belt looks like it's a kid's version on Yokozuna. But I quite liked the exploding camera spot. It was quite a nice, different, new way of sort of having a distraction-y finish. So yeah, that was my one positive of the match, that it was a innovative end.
Literally, the only memorable thing about the match, everything memorable about this match happened before and after. So after this match happens, Bret the Hitman Hart immediately confronts Hulk Hogan in the backstage area. You know what happens here, Gav? Basically, he says, I'm sick of you. You've not spoken to me since you got back. You can go fuck yourself, is an actual quote. And he says, you're not on my... You don't think I'm on your level. You're not in my league. And there's a massive, massive blowout that isn't sorted out for a few years. After this, Vince McMahon says that Bret Hart was being unprofessional. And yeah, Bret says, look, you've all been lying to me. And this is when the chip on the shoulder really starts to get chippy with Bret the Hitman Hart. And again, as I said, the positive thing is he starts thinking he's better than everybody and everything, which makes him a better performer in many ways because it gives him a bit of confidence. But yeah, that chip on the shoulder really starts to grow here.
Yeah.
So that's all I've really got to say about that. Shawn Michaels introducing Diesel for the first time. Anything you want to say about that?
Just glad to see Diesel.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I've not found a love for Shawn Michaels massively yet. But I did quite like that sort of how he handled that segment, and it was what it needed to be.
Yeah, I agree. Do you know how Vin Diesel, how Diesel came into the WWF, Gav? What actually led to this?
I have been told, and I can't remember it.
So Shawn Michaels met his wife by sitting at home watching WCW and seeing someone and saying, hey, can I get her number? Because she looks fit. And it was quite a similar story for how he saw Diesel. So he was at home watching WCW, watching a character called Vinny Vegas. He reaches out to the Steiner brothers, who are in WCW, who have just moved over to WCW, from WCW to WWF. And he says, what's the name of this guy? I could do with a bodyguard gimmick. Can you get me his details? So, long story short, WWF said they weren't going to negotiate with him whilst he was still under contract. So Vinny Vegas said to WCW owners / producers, you're not using me. I've been doing nothing. I want to go home. I want to be a bouncer for a strip club and forget this wrestling thing. So they say, yeah, okay, fair enough. We'll let you out the contract. He immediately used a WCW fax machine to fax the contract to the WWF. And then within a few weeks, he was in the WWF as Diesel. Named such by Shane McMahon, who this time last year was trying to seduce Bret Hart's wife. So, the match, Steiners and Smoking Guns versus Money Inc. and the Head Shrinkers. Very, very little to say about this. Rick Steiner didn't even get in the ring. Anything you want to talk about?
Not really. I kind of tuned out on this one.
Because there was nothing there. Just 8 people all just doing random bits of stuff.
Some of them were great, but they just didn't do much.
Typical multi-man clusterfuck. There was just too many personalities.
Yeah.
You couldn't follow what was going on. And yeah, it was an 8-man tag. It was what it says on
Chaos rules.
Yeah, and like I say, Rick Steiner didn't even get in the ring. That's how little everyone cared about that match. It was just there to give us 2 matches in between the final. So Fuji and Yoko interview again, but there's no new ground there, so we'll not talk about that. Shawn Michaels versus Owner Crush, Gav's all-time favorite wrestler. What do you reckon, Gav?
When you watch him and he moves, when they say big guys that can move, he really does move around a lot, and he does a lot of stuff that he just looks strong. As he's not the biggest, he's big, but he's not the biggest guy. But he's definitely does look more powerful than all of them. Just the easy does stuff.
Lauren, yeah. I'm very interested into what you think about this and whether he lives up to what Gav's been saying.
Yeah, to be fair, I obviously it would be a stretch for me to like him as much as Gav likes him.
He looks effortless for me. That's what.
Yeah, he does. He looks clean. He looks polished. It is like, I think the closest thing you can liken him to at the minute that we've got over here is Troy Ryan. Yeah. Like, he's not the biggest dude. Like, Troy's shorter but beefier than most people, whereas Kahuna's a bit taller but not quite as beefy as a lot of them. But it's just the ease at which he picks people up and throws people around, but then also moves his own frame is just well done. It made me laugh when the commentary were talking about the agility of Shawn Michaels, yet he literally barely got a leg over Crush when he was trying to do a leapfrog. I don't know whether that was because Crush didn't crouch low enough.
Very, very tall. That's right.
About 6'7", he's 6'8".
It did really tickle me that they're there going, oh, the agility of Shawn Michaels, and he's there like on an angle trying to do a leapfrog. But yeah, overall the match, I enjoyed Crush. I don't think I saw the best out of him because it very much felt like, again, it felt like that Shawn Michaels was just trying to wear the big man down with working on a limb rather than using his speed so much. It felt, I don't know, there might have just been that I was tuning out by the end of this thing because it was late last night. I was hot and I was tired.
No, fair enough. It did feel like a bit of a nothing match. I'll be honest. I don't dislike either performer. I've definitely seen better Shawn Michaels matches. Obviously,
yeah.
I'm not entirely sure I've seen better Crush matches because I think Crush was largely presentation over match quality. With that being said, I've had more memorable Crush matches, and I've seen more fun Crush matches. But yeah, I mean, it was fine.
Great.
The Doink matches were good, and they lead into the Doink matches here because we see 2 Doinks at the end, and the Doinks are Matt Bourne and Steve Kern, formerly Skinner.
Yeah, I think you don't see a lot from Crush. Like, that's where I can see why you're pulling a face when I liken him to Troy Ryan, because Troy does a fucking lot. What he does well. Like,
it's a small move set, I think, that he just has.
Yeah, down. It's that effortlessness of picking people up. There's just a natural strength there.
But he's also been in Japan at this point and wrestled that way. He was as a big man, basically.
My biggest takeaway from this match was Randy Savage pissing me off about Crush slamming Yokozuna.
Yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Everything went back to Hogan and Yokozuna every 5
exactly
minutes.
That. And I think there was some suggestion that they were going to have Crush in the spot of being the guy that does slam Yokozuna.
I think so.
The second half of this show was very much who's going to be the guy that's going to take down Yokozuna, who's going to slam him. And a lot of that was trying to set up if Hogan came back. Ultimately, we know it ended up being Lex Luger that did it and came out of nowhere. But Crush would have been definitely a number one contender to be the guy that sort of
And
looked at
obviously,
that.
whoever was deciding that was telling Macho Man to keep saying it, keep saying
100%.
it. So
You know why Marty Jannetty wasn't in this match?
sexy drums and rock and roll.
Stupid, sexy. So guess what? Marty Jannetty was fired again, and I was falling asleep and missing a plane or missing some form of travel, and then fighting with a road agent. So yet again, Marty Jannetty, who was supposed to be in this sort of position, was not in this position. Worth noting that Steve Kern, after this, portrayed Doink on the Europe circuit for a while, and Matt Bourne portrayed him in the US. So we really did have multiple Doinks going around at various points in time. Anything else you want to talk about with this match?
Nope.
Bam Bam Bigelow interview, we'll skip over that because it doesn't really say a lot. And we are in the final. Bam Bam versus Bret Hart. Made a big deal out of the fact that Bam Bam only wrestled for 8 minutes and Bret had wrestled over an hour at this point, which I think was good. Bret's fingers and Bret's knee is a focal point as well. Even got a dusty finish in there, which was interesting. What do you think, Laura?
I thought the start of the match was a bit, I don't know, I wasn't hooked by it. I was a bit over it by this point. Okay. I think I struggle with tournaments in general because I get bored seeing the same person over and over again. So when it's the third match of someone that isn't enthralling me, I was very much like,
I've seen you now.
Is it over yet? But yeah, I thought that the first part of the match was it was all right. I wouldn't have said it was anything bad, good. I think I watched it 3 times because I felt like I'd not watched it and then realised, no, I actually probably have watched it. I kept thinking that my mind was wandering off and I hadn't watched it, so I rewound it thinking I've got to have missed something. And no, I just haven't.
I think as much as I love Bam Bam, as much as I love Bret, I think this was the worst of the 3 matches featuring Bret Hart. Even though I think all 3 were good, I think this was the worst of the 3.
I zoned out by this point.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. And a nice little subplot for this was during the roll-up at the end, according to Bam Bam Bigelow, Bret farted in his face. So...
I was confused why, again, probably because we're watching this as a standalone, not as part of the series, but I was confused why Luna Vachon appeared and whacked him with a chair.
Oh, yeah, she's about to become his manager.
Yeah.
So nobody had seen her do that line with him before. She's about to become Bam Bam's manager.
Right, okay.
And it got better when that sort of happened as well. It was good.
Again, the confusion with refs and end of match, and I was a bit... Yeah, I don't think... Again, I feel like if I was I was struggling to follow what was going on watching it on TV. If I was in the arena, I feel like I would have just been like, why have I sat here for 2.5 hours for this? Because I have no clue what's going on now. Yeah,
typical dusty finish. There was a hit from Luna, Bam Bam, like a minute later, so it wasn't straight afterwards. And I think that was the problem. I think if it was a hit followed by a pin, that would be better. But as it happened, it was about a minute after the hit. Bam Bam covers Bret. Another ref comes down, Mike Yoda, and says, "Oh no! That she's hit him with the chair, so we've got to overturn the match." But then they go back on that and say, "No, it's not overturned. The match is going to continue." I think it just
announced, is it that
Yeah,
it's not.
It's overturned.
Howard. No, because I don't know where had you gone at this point. You'd gone somewhere, Gav. So Howard Finkel announced it as Brett had won, not Bam Bam, and then the refs were like, no, that's not what like. And then he was like, no, okay, he hasn't won. We're going to continue the match. So then they continued for a bit, and then Bam Bam put him in a bear hug, which, again, I just don't like that move. Again, so much of this is my personal preference.
Right. Understandable.
But yeah, the bear hug that he had on just looked like he was just carrying a baby over his shoulder. It didn't look like he was doing the right lot to him.
A great high angle suplex though that Bam Bam did, where he gets him up in almost like the reverse bear hug position you were just talking about, and then just drops him.
Yeah,
better than I've ever seen anyone do a high angle suplex like that. It's great.
Yeah, so the reverse bear hug looks so much better when he's got him the other way. It just looks like he's climbing, carrying someone to safety. But yeah, then obviously we do get, spoiler alert, we get the Brett win.
That's true.
And then the chaos with King Lawler. So this was one of my questions to finish this up, was why is King Lawler King Lawler? Because I thought this was the first King of the Ring. But obviously it wasn't the first King of the Ring, it was just the first King of the Ring pay-per-view. But is he King Lawler because of a King of the Ring, or is he just King Lawler because Lawler does Lawler things?
Just Jerry the King Lawler was in Memphis many years before this, deep in the territory days. The Jim Carrey film Man on the Moon talks about him in his feud with Andy Kaufman in the 70s. So yeah, Jerry the King Lawler was the king of Memphis.
We'll watch that. It'll help, yeah.
Yeah, a Hulk Hogan style figure in the Memphis territory for years and years and years. Massive celebrity. Never won the King of the Ring, but the King of the Ring was a WWF thing. He's only just, as I said with the USWA at the beginning, he's only just come into the company. So the whole plot now moving forward into SummerSlam.
Introduction, or had they already seen him? And
we'd seen him a little bit. So
getting to know him.
He's been in the Royal Rumble. He's been on commentary a few times, but he's not been like a major player. So this is him being an evil baddie, really, for the first time, essentially, because he's beloved most of the places, with exceptions, but generally speaking, he's beloved. So he's coming out as a baddie. He's the goodie in USWA, and Vince McMahon's the baddie at the same time. But in this context, he's the baddie. He's saying there's only one king, and this whole tournament is a front to me. I've been the king since the 60s, and this is all. So yeah, he's been the king for a very long time. And he's taken out on Bret Hart, who's the eventual winner. Again, that was his crown. That's an old crown from Jerry Lawler that gets mashed under his foot. But I've seen the promo pictures of that very crown. Yeah, the cape was made for this, but the crown was Jerry Lawler's crown, which again is why the cape and crown aren't the same color. So yeah, the only other notable thing to say about this really is that as well as the two fake injuries and the real injury that Bret Hart has, when Jerry the King Lawler throws a chair at him, that causes another injury, and Bret Hart couldn't breathe properly for several months. So not the best night for Bret Hart in a number of ways, but I think Bret Hart's the absolute hero of this show. I know I'm going to have differing opinions, but again, I would...
Well, definitely the hero of the show. It's built that way. It's written that way.
For you. Just not for you. But
it's just not my favourite guy. But yeah, he was the hero of the show, definite.
And I would say that, again, match number 2, Mr. Perfect... match number 4, Mr... What is it? 5? Yeah, 5. Bret versus Perfect is the match to go out of your way and watch, in my opinion. I think it's a perfect match for what it is. Quite low stakes in the grand scheme of things, but I just really enjoyed it. Lauren, what would you say is the match that people should go and watch?
My favourite match, I think, of all of them was the first match. It was Razor and Bret. Taking out the lackluster finish, that was probably the best match. The match I don't know how to say it because it's not the best match and it's also not the match that I've enjoyed the most, but it's one of my favourite matches from this entire series that we've done.
I think, generally speaking, this is the best all-round pay-per-view we've done. I think it might not have had the I think fundamentally it's so because I felt you've been a bit more down on this than I thought you were going to be. I thought this might have uplifted you a little bit, which I'm a bit disappointed in. But, you know, it's all subjective and that.
Oh, you were down on the pay per view when you said that you had 13 pages of notes.
I make a lot of notes. I've cut out some bits. Gav, finally, what did you think?
We've been on this phone call for 1 hour and 56 minutes.
What, the favourite match?
Yeah.
Well, it's Perfect and Brett, without a doubt.
Okay.
But on a personally favourite wrestler level, Rush.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Excellent. Well, it's been a long one. Lauren.
It's been a hot one.
It's been a long one. It's been a hot one. Lauren,
do you moved and I am sweating.
Do you at least feel educated?
I do feel educated. I fully understand why you picked this. I also fully accept why you made me load YouTube for a 2-minute match. But yeah, I agree with you that this has probably been the best pay-per-view that we've watched so far. It's just unfortunate that the hero of the story is not as entertaining to me as he seems to be for most.
The wrestling massively improved. Yeah. Like, you can just see the level improve from previous. You can just see it.
Well, thank you everyone for watching. I just want to say that the very, very next pay-per-view that we're going to be covering, we're going back to 1996, and we are going to Bash at the Beach 1996, which is the beginning of something special in WCW. We have the Outsiders, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, against whoever WCW can get to defeat.
You might have more than 13 pages on this next one.
We'll see. Well, again, if anyone wants to, if you're working in the wrestling space and you want to be involved in this podcast or our core podcast, please give us a shout. Otherwise, thank you very much for listening or watching. Have a good evening, have a good morning, have a good afternoon, whenever the heck you are watching or listening to it. Bye.
Bye.